Welcome to SEL and EDU, the podcast where we explore how educators bring social emotional learning to life by sharing stories, strategies, and sparks of inspiration. I'm your host, Dr. Krista Lay, owner of Resonance Education. Thank you for joining us on this SEL journey.
I'm Brian Carpenter, host of Fresh Air at 5, a part of the Education Podcast Network, just like the show you're listening to now. Shows on the network are individually owned and opinions expressed may not reflect others. Find other interesting education podcasts at edupodcastnetwork.com.
Craig Ahrens-Martin proudly serves as the CEO of CCM Education Group, an education consulting agency and progressive think tank dedicated to co-creating solutions in leadership, cultures of belonging, change management, and equity. His work extends beyond pre-K through 12 education to include partnerships with companies and other organizations driving transformative change through culture, inclusion, and belonging.
How's it going? What is going on, SEL and EDU family?
I know you've all been wondering, where's Craig? And I actually had somebody ask me, are things good? I'm like, we're cool. We're very good. I said, I've been trying to get on Craig's schedule for the last year to do this episode. We could figure out where he went because you are rocking the world. And I'm so proud of you, my friend. And I can't wait for the world to hear that you have exploded in your consulting work. You have a book coming out. You have a podcast, and you're doing all of these multi-day in-person workshops that are just lighting the world on fire. So where do we start? How's your day? That's normally how we start.
Yeah, I think about where my heart is at this time. It's gratitude. I recognize how bold and beautiful and serendipitous my village is in regards to the folks who I get to spend time with, who in their own ways foster the right kinds of pollination of ideas and sage, and also call me when I'm out of bounds in regards to just taking care of myself or saying something reckless and be like, Craig, did you really say that? I'm human, I'm an adult. But it's been an incredible season, immense season of that, because I definitely have experienced some valley moments as well as some mountain moments. We may talk about today.
When I was young, I always thought, when I turn double digits, life's going to be awesome. Like 10, that was my 9-year-old self. And then, when I'm 13, when I'm 16, when I'm 18, when I'm out of school, and I kept thinking it was going to be like this uphill. And I don't know what put that crazy idea into my head that there weren't going to be valleys or deep gorges. And so that's actually something I have always told my boys is that's life, the ups and downs, and that's part of the ride. And it makes the beautiful points even more beautiful. And when you out of those valleys, it makes you realize your strength.
I appreciate that. I'm curious for you. What are you learning about yourself at this point? You've had a summer as well. You too have grown and blossomed in ways that I'm most inspired by. How have things been on your side?
They're good. I've been in a super creative mode. I've been writing, not writing for dissertation type of stuff, but actually 4 months of weekly blogging and newsletters, feeling inspired and still seeing SEL in the world all around us, but writing more from my own family experiences, from my own classroom experience, my friends' experiences, interactions with people, trying out things, taking risks, like things that I'm like, this might not work, but I'm patient and I'm not expecting it to be a big hill right away. I can wait this out and how it goes. So I feel that I'm in this creative time of my life, but also this patient time where I'm nurturing things. So I feel like we're on similar paths in that way.
I would agree. I think one of the things that I am spending some time just kind of holding for myself really at this point is even in the midst of some of the stormiest moments, and we're just in a really interesting time in our country and in our world, what I find is that for me, waking up and knowing that I have another opportunity, another chance, whether or not I'm at the valley level or I'm actually at the peak, I have the opportunity to embrace that the valley is the teacher. And so I know that for me, in those moments that feel tough, I get the opportunity to try it again, do something new again, find renewal, find rejuvenation. This summer has been a challenge for me to start my mornings off with a devotional and guiding my energy. I'll light some incense. So I like set the mood. I'll set a whole morning date for myself. So, I'll get the incense going, got the candles going. I got my cup of coffee. I sit and do my meditation, do my devotional, do my prayer and just hope that the divine really sets me forward in a way that honors how I can be in relationship and in community with folks and hopefully add value and light in their lives. But I can tell you that I've also experienced some really great highs as well. But one of the things that I'm holding is like the view isn't the win, right? The mountaintop isn't necessarily the victory. It's like the vantage point. I actually have the opportunity to see from a 30,000 foot perspective, like, yes, humans are going through many different things, but at times you get an opportunity to just zone in and see that moment of joy. You actually get to see that hand being held. You actually get to see that person have that aha. You can see that person actually has that shift from depression or shift from it was a storm today and it was a horrible day yesterday, but today is a little bit better. I'm really grateful that one of the big things that I'm seeing in my devotionals and my awakenings is that both the mountain and the valley have been teachers for me. I'm going to continue to not only embrace and love that those peak moments of the mountain, but I also appreciate that the valley moments are really showing me resilience. It's showing me where am I foundationally connected to the roots of the system I was supposed to be, and am I actually living into that in a beautiful way?
Knowing some of the projects that you're working on, how has this renewal, this foundation, and this vantage point shown up in the book that you just submitted today
Yes.
for your podcast?
Yeah. I had one of those moments where I was sitting by the water and some of the ideas just flow from me. Anytime I'm sitting by the water, whether it's about sitting next to the water that gives a sense of perspective. And I think about just the waves going in and out. What I have uncovered is there are people who are sharing with me now who didn't share with me before. They are watching my journey, watching me in a very real way. People who I don't even know later will share, like, Craig, I found myself inspired by X or Y, and I'm hearing about this thing. This year, I've challenged myself that in bravely being a big theme for this year, that I'm going to try some stuff that as Oprah would say, cause just a little pee to run down your leg. That might have been a Yalla Vans line. Go a little bit bigger this year. Try some things, see what happens, what sticks. And I knew I had a book, Creating Brave Spaces for LGBTQ, which has been a 2-year love affair to get that book done. And even in this environment, I'll be honest. Yeah, I've had 2 writing days in the last week where I'm like, we're done. Like I'm to the end. But I can be honest and say, I got to a point where it was very ugly to have to read and try to figure out, like, how am I going to shape a story that will be a legacy after I'm gone? That someone will hold this and say, this is a touch point. And this touch point is absent of the light that's necessary, because what I struggled with was, where are the stories of resilience? Where are the stories where people have dared bravely, even if this environment for queer folks, that anyone who doesn't happen to be cisgender, white, evangelical, will actually thrive in this environment? How do I find this story? And I was just up against the wall. And so I fought with myself back and forth about it until I found the stories. I was like, Craig, you do know these stories. You've read about them. You've talked about them. So bring them back. It was really great for me to have that moment of I'm up against the wall. I don't know if I can do this. This is going to be the crux of me either moving forward and getting this book done or not. But when I was able to find those stories that I think will elevate and amplify the beautifulness of humanity, especially in defiance of this foolishness that we're dealing with, it also spoke to the fact that if I stay the journey, I will find the light. And doing not only this book, but also the conversations I've been able to have with Brave Voices in Education, which for me, the goal is just how do we give the next person a cup of courage? I need those doses regularly. People will think, oh, Craig is just over the top. He's all these things. He's got all this energy. But there are moments when I'm just like, yo, humans, y'all are a lot for me today. And I just don't know. And so I can tell you that in making a decision to really dig in and go more broadly in the work of what it means to be brave in this America has been gratifying based on conversations I get to have, but also very terrifying because that bravery, that courage, that resilience is moment by moment. And it's something.
What patterns or themes are you noticing?
There was a beautiful soul who I've had the opportunity over the last couple of years to get to know. He's now a college freshman. His name is Devon. I don't think that he'll mind that I share his name. He is someone who I've had an opportunity over the last, I would say now 3 years to actually see him rise as a brilliant mind who has made a decision to stand 10 toes deep in all of his truth as a young Black queer man. I had an opportunity to hear him speak at the State House. I met him at an Amplified GSA event where he was one of the speakers and got an opportunity to really speak truth to power on the Celtics floor here in Boston and elevating the truths that were necessary for other folks to experience his light. People may try to diminish and try to extinguish his light, but he was born for something greater. And that he made a decision also to join me on my journey when I did the Black Boy Joy Summit this past year to be one of the youth speakers. And then I had an opportunity to see him on Sunday where he is helping me to shape, here's the lineup for folks. In my journey growing up as a Black queer young person, I didn't have that. I didn't have someone who I could look to and hold on to figure out how to shape my journey. I just knew that I was trapped in this dogma of being out and being someone who loves education, loves young people. I was also fearful that me being all of myself would cost me everything. And to see that this is not the case because 20 plus years into it, I've done okay. But I also appreciate the fact that part of my lived experience and my legacy is I have young people like Devon who I get to actually be in community with, who helps to shape whether or not I'm still on path. Because if he desires to be in community with me, then maybe there is some parts of who I am that's showing up that also are inspiring to him, as well as I'm finding myself inspired by his journey as well. And I think that's the work, is that we can find human connection that creates these electric sparks that are absolutely necessary, especially in moments where it feels like we could be living in some dark times, depending on your view.
What you described with the relationship that you had is what the Search Institute would call a developmental relationship. And that is what the research is showing us that all young people want from adults. Is yes, get to know me, believe in me, support me, stretch me, challenge me, help me grow, and let me see what else is out there. The biggest part we'll miss, in my opinion, is that it's bi-directional, that we learn young people at the same time that they get to learn from us. It's a reciprocal relationship. That's what you just described. When I think about who you are and how you show up in the world, you are always pouring into other people and learning from them at the same time. That's one of the pieces I really admire about you, and especially the work that your heart has led you to doing this now. I know these things have all been incredibly important for you, and finding your voice and your pathways to demonstrate that to the world has been inspiring.
Thank you.
You also mentioned Black Boy Joy Summit.
Yeah.
If people are listening to this and they're like, oh my gosh, I would like to come, like maybe there's another young man who's, I would like to be a part of this, but I don't live in Boston.
Yeah.
Connect, become part of the community.
Black Boy Joy Summit is an opportunity to amplify Black and Brown male genius and heart and be a connective hub and tissue to other resources, human and otherwise, that young people can tap into. What I realized is in a village that I was nurtured and nourished in, I did a lot of work to find micro mentors in my life that could actually pour into me in some way, align the right people, the right magic so that I could be here. The Black Boy Joy Summit is an opportunity to find inspiration with young people speaking to each other about what's important to them, actually carrying their own hero story, their own thing that they have deep in their heart that they want to see for themselves. Because for them, it might be going to college. It might be having the 6 or 7 figure job. It might be curing cancer. It could be a host of things, but your hero story is your personal thing. My job being an architect of that space is one, to make sure it feels affirming and loving. Two, that you have the right people who you could plug into and tap in that moment to get the kind of source and support you need. And thirdly, that you come away with a few more ideas that may spark the kind of innovation or connection or meaning making that's absolutely possible. We do workshops, we feed them. This year, we're expanding. Last year was just a one-day event. Now we actually are building out the ecosystem to have master classes. So we're going to do monthly master classes. We're going to actually do live at 5. We're going to do some weekly conversations on a range of things. And we're inviting parents in. This will also be an opportunity that it's not just youth-only spaces, but we actually are going to embrace our wonderful adults who stand in the gap. Because they're like, hey, Craig, Mr. Martin, what about me? And it's heard. So we have a virtual conference coming up in February, and we also have our lives. We have our masterclass. So if folks are interested, Krista, you have all my information. People can find me, and we'll connect.
Episode notes, resource. So I was also really excited that you said the word architect. We're designing this because I don't know if you remember, but I remember really quite clearly 13 years ago, we were in Virginia meeting together as the class of ASCD emerging leaders. And you were in my group. We got into circles and we all had to introduce ourselves. I remember you said you were an architect of change.
Yeah.
I was like, damn, that's amazing.
Dude.
All these years later, you've made this. Like,
Okay.
you've done it. I love to have been able to see that journey, because there were a couple of years where you disappeared for a little bit, but you disappeared because you were doing it, right? You were in the classrooms, welcoming the students into the buildings, checking in on the teachers, doing all the things. Then you popped up at a conference and I'm like, that's my friend. You were up people and you like ran off and we hugged. And like, you've been not just talking it, but walking the walk. All the with that idea of an architect of change in mind, and with your summits, with your podcast, your book. I know you're in this season of kind of creativity and putting this out there. What do you see as the next step for yourself? Serving others, because I know it's not for you, it's for in service of other people.
Good Lord, that's a big question, Krista. So a couple of things that I think about, like I'm still like really relishing what you share in regards to building that, 15 plus year relationship. And in that moment, if I'm being honest, I didn't understand what it meant to be in the space I was in. I didn't know who I was building relationships with and how that would play out. I didn't have that future forward thinking. And I think that we know that we sometimes are in a season where we're in the ecosystem for a moment, just for that moment. and that it may take many more seasons before you come back to that person, that situation, that opportunity, what have you, because you needed to go through things in order to have an appreciation for the very thing that you may have taken for granted. It was seed planting, but you didn't know that a harvest would be growing behind your back. And so when I think about where I was then as a teacher who love the incredible ferocity of teaching, the call on my life to be in front of young people and work with them to have their own ahas, their own insights, to wrestle with them about all the idiosyncrasies that go on in being a young person and the craziness of it all. Then eventually having to develop that same love and adoration for the adults who all many times mirrored the behaviors of said souls. Where I'm at this season, what I believe, there's a lot of seed planting happening right now. So I didn't want this to be that season, but what I can tell you, you're getting some exclusives right now. Good Lord. So one, Brave Voices in Education, very much I was inspired by our journey together and being able to have some brilliant conversations with folks over 3 years. And we've had an opportunity to have cross-pollinated some wonderful voices from SEL to EDU to Brave Voices in Ed. I didn't know how powerful that would be. I'm having conversations that are ministering to that early career educator, that early career leader who decided he needed to go figure out who he was in life and to step back out of community, to be able to do the work, figure some things out, wrestle, fail forward often, cry, apologize, run, hit the wall, and come back to it. So this season has been like, okay, right now I'm finishing The Perkins Miracle, which is I'm calling it that book right now. It's going to be a short book that's going to be self-published. I can't let go of the stories that actually moved us to a community that was supposed to be closed by the state. And actually we grew tremendously to become one of the best in the city. And then we reversed the achievement gap. And we did that without state and city intervention. It was one of our PL and EDU guests, Dr. David Adams, who sat me down. He was like, Craig, do you realize what you did? Have you ever told that story? And I'm like, no. And epiphany grew. So, okay, this has to happen. So that story is being written now. That's going to come out soon. So you got that. The podcast is going. I'm grateful this podcast is something that's not only on the airwaves right now via all of the podcast streaming opportunities, but it's in radio now as well. I never imagined being in radio. Like I did, but not like this.
I'm out because you were made for radio. Always talked about that and how one, not only just, sorry, I interrupted you.
You're fine.
Your voice, your inflection, your ideas, the way you present things is, yes, just pull up a chair and you know what it is? It's a nice warm cup of hot chocolate while you're sitting in the fire. You're like, yes.
I sometimes liken it to a good old fashioned Golden Girls episode. Like we basking in the warmth of it all. And I'm sitting here, who am I today? Am I Blanche? Am I giving off that bold ferocity? Am I Dorothy, who's got that little sarcastic edge to it? Or Rose, all right, I'm always turning it upside down and flipping around and making all beautiful and things. Or maybe I am Sophia and I'm just telling it like it is. When I think about the journey, good Lord, I feel like, yes, it's crazy. I'm thinking about this now. I'm like, which Golden Girl am I today?
The beauty of that is that you can be all of them.
Sure.
Some of the things that I've been really processing over these last, not just year, but year and a half is what does it mean to have a business? What does it mean to have a business in education? What does it mean to be the one responsible for making it move forward and being sustainable? And then what are people's perceptions of what you're supposed to be like? I go up as me. The parts that someone might say is good, plus the ones that I'm like, yeah, that was super embarrassing. Going back to this idea of who are you? It can be all in one, packaged with a nice little Craig bow.
Sounds cool.
Until you open the box.
Hey, you get what you get. I know there's a little old adage too, but I'm like, get what you get with it though. We'll see.
It goes back to that idea of being authentic. as a whole person, because I think back to my first couple of years of teaching and I felt two separate people, who I was at home and then who I had to be when I was showing up as a person at 21, 22, teaching school. And that was hard. And then I felt like I had that again. Who am I as a person trying to run a business? And then who am I as me? They're finally coming together again. So again, that just reminds me of your Golden Girls. Like, it's authentic. We're all of those pieces. And that's what makes us the right person for our group of people.
I'm with it.
So I have a couple more questions about the last couple times I've been talking with people. It's been about books that they've written. And I'm very intrigued by this because books take such a long time, especially when you're talking personally. You're putting your whole heart out there because you're illuminating a way for other people to have those bits of hope and to see what their future hold for them. What was the best part for you in writing that book?
So my process was I wrote a first draft and I submitted it. I did a proposal first and it was accepted. And then I wrote the second one, like the full edition, and sent it out. And then there was some sensitivity reads of that manuscript. I got feedback back. And I was like, okay, cool, got it. It took me months to figure out, like, what does this all mean? I got some really great feedback from folks I really revere in the work. How am I going to tell these stories, but in a way that will be received? And it took me car rides down to North Carolina, talking to myself, doing tons of voice notes until some things made sense. Being able to map out the different ideas to ways, okay, what is the framework for how am I going to tell this story? Because generally, I just start talking, but I don't always have, this is the roadmap of how I want people to experience it. And here are the pause points along the way that would be important for people to be like, oh, all right, here's some questions. We're all sitting here in the pasture. Ain't nothing but green on both sides. And we're sitting here and he stopped to look at this one daffodil. Why is he looking at this daffodil? I had to figure out what is the roadmap? What is the journey I wanted people to have? If I'm being like completely honest, the aha came this morning. It was like, oh, this is what this was all for. Because I didn't know whether or not I was ever, my book is 10 chapters and I got to chapter 8. I've written all the chapters, but chapter 8 was one that talked about advocacy. What are the ways people are daring greatly in their own right? As a queer person who young people look to, I figured I have to have an answer. Because every time I turn, I'm looking for these gems. I'm looking for these moments of light. I'm looking for the lights in the air when dies. I'm like, where are these at? Because it does not feel good right now. I feel like the Death Eaters are at us right now in this environment. And then it was like, Craig, and I said this earlier, you've been there. So I'm like, oh, the No Kings protest. I was there. I need to speak about it. All of a sudden, it was like, I was there for this. I was there for that. I bear witness to this. Oh, I read about this. And I was able to pull those things in. And it was important to me that, like, how can I represent as someone whom for a whole week they'll punch in the gut because I'm like, I can't find these stories. And these stories are the reason why this book exists. It's not about the other chapters, but it is about this. This is the chapter that for those people who are not necessarily part of the LGBTQ community, but you have a loved one, you have a student, and you're like, Craig, it's dangerous out here. It's scary. Who else out here is doing this work? I need to find those stories because that's what people are going to look for. They're going to be looking to say, okay, I might dare bravely one more. The cup of courage came from this one section, this one line is going to make, I think I might make because of this one line. And it came today. This is what this was all for. And I know everybody has their own writing process. I know you shared a little bit about your writing journey, but I can tell you that now that it's submitted, it's a completely different book from the one I started with. And it's given me so much ferocity that right now 2 other books are happening at the same time. There's other spin-off stories that I'm like, oh, this needs to be told too. So I'm grateful that's happening, but I wasn't always in season where I was in a garden where all of these different things were actually, I could see them, I could pick them up or I could smell them. I didn't know that, I knew that they might be in the garden with me, but I could not for the life of me see and appreciate.
As soon as I get your book, I need to skim chapter 8 to digest and pick it up, because very rarely do I read a book straight from the beginning to the end. So note to self and note to the listeners out there, go to chapter 8 and go back to chapter 1.
Yes.
I'm seeing all the amazing rays of light that you're putting out into the world for people to advocate, to be a part of it. And speaking of advocating, I know that there are ways to support Black Boy Joy Summit when they follow you, that you can send money to sponsor people, that you can listen to brave voices, that can pass your book on to our young people who need those lights and want to be in community with you. Really powerful legacy. And it's inspiring. And I'm just so proud to be your friend and to see you and to hear this journey on for you. And I miss having you as a co-host, and you're where you need to be doing what you need to be doing for the world right now. And I'm just so joyful for you for that.
Oh, thank you. I'm grateful that you are along with me on the journey. I don't know if I would be here if we had not had our times together. And I can only see things continue to get, even better and greater over time. One of the beautiful things about our journey is that we constantly chose each other in moments where it was absolutely tough. And we chose to be there in moments of absolute bliss and joy, and everything in between. And getting to see and reflect back on how we're experiencing different parts of the world and different experiences and moments have been critical to, I know, my journey as a human and as someone who needed these conversations, needed to be in community with you. It needed to be sitting across from you having crab fries at that wonderful place. I think it was in Philly, right? I'm like, yeah, we had crab fries. We needed those things. We needed those moments. I know that sometimes I'll speak for myself. We'll hold on to, this is the roughest edges of life. And I'm experiencing all these hardships and things like this. But I also recognize that we get the gift of choice. We get to choose, how do we want to hold the world up, or how do we want to hold ourselves up in the world? And that's about living a great story. Living a great story is that you and I can sit in any space and any time. It could be months on end before we actually talk, and we pick up like normal, right? And I think that's beautiful. We have that relationship that happened. And I just want to continue to build more moments that as I get older, I can pull these crazy wackadoodle stories of eating crab fries or sliding down a slide that I had no business sliding down and skinning up all my backside because I was trying to relive being a 4-year-old in my 40 plus body. What are you trying to do today? I was like, look,
I need those reminders every once in a while.
Got a godson. He needs somebody to slide down the slide. So
I know you have a plane to catch pretty soon. So how do people get a hold of you?
Good question. Out here in these streets. So I'm like Craig Aarons Martin. If you put Craig C. Martin on LinkedIn, you're going to find me. And Craig at CCM Education Group.co. That's my company. You can do that too. But I'm like, I'm outside. You'll see me. And I'm like, if you put Craig and Krista, guess what? You're going to find me.
Yes, very true. And here's another one. What is on repeat on your playlist right now?
Woo. My playlist is insane right now. Insane. So from a writing perspective, there's this group called SAULT, SAULT. And it's like soulful, beautiful instrumentation, funky, eclectic, but wholesome music that I've enjoyed. Definitely have had the Cowboy Carter album on repeat. I'm loving and living for St. Harrison, just genius beyond measure, loving him. And then I think about, who was I listening to today? I'm listening to a lot of lo-fi music. And so a lot of that just plays in the background. I have this hankering for finding DJs on YouTube, and I have the YouTube Premium. And I'm like, this is going to be the DJ for the day. and they play a number of sets. We see what happens. Never know with me.
Can you close it up like you used to?
Okay, I'll try. I'm like, it's been a while. So first and foremost, I just want to thank you so much for inviting me to be back on the podcast.
I've been planning this one for a while.
I know. So I'm super excited. All right, you wonderful SEL and EDU family. It has been an incredible conversation. My heart is full. I hope it has been for you as well. We hope that something today in our conversation stirs something in your soul. We ask that you continue to hold someone you love dear real tight. And we ask you to continue to lean and love and hold on to the light. Y'all take care.
Thank you again for tuning in to this episode of SEL in EDU. At Residence Education, we equip educators with knowledge, skills, and resources to design learning experiences that foster students' academic, social, and emotional growth. We believe that every small action to foster connections and growth creates ripples shaping the future.